Hi, first grade. Today's lesson is called Topic 16, Fractions of Shapes. Now, you just finished Topic 15 and you took your test, and you guys did really well. Let's remember Topic 15 for a minute. In Topic 15, you learned about shapes and solid figures. Today, some of those shape names are going to help us to understand fractions. Now, let's look at my whiteboard. The red words are words we're going to use today, and they're important. Fraction vocabulary. So words we're going to use to help us understand fractions. Now, a fraction is a way to describe how something is divided or separated into parts. Have you ever watched somebody cut up a sandwich or a pizza into equal parts? What are some other things that you might divide to share with somebody? You might divide one of these. You might share it with a friend. You might divide one of these. You might even share or divide a pizza. Now, when you want to share things fairly, it's important to divide them into equal parts. So let's look at our math vocabulary right now. Equal. What does equal mean? The same. I also use this math symbol to say that something is equal. Remember when we say 5 plus 5 equals 10? We don't spell the word equal, we use the symbol. So when you see my symbol for equal today, remember, it's the word equal. Now what does equal mean? The same. 5 plus 5 equals 10 because 5 plus 5 is the same as 10. Equal parts. I'm going to use those words to describe shapes today, and I'm going to describe them in equal parts, which are the parts that have the same size, or I might say that there's unequal parts. Now, what does unequal mean? Unequal. Well, un means not. So if I say it's unequal, it's not the same. Let's look at some unequal shapes right now. I took a smaller whiteboard to show you some example of things that are unequal. Imagine this is a cookie, and I said I would share it with you. Did I share it equally? No. I wonder if you got the bigger side or me. Remember, when you want to share things, you want to be fair, right? So you want to divide them into equal parts to be fair. And we know about being fair. That's an idea in first grade that we're very familiar with. We like things to be fair. We like things to be equal. Let's look at the middle circle. That's unequal. I did not make it into two equal parts. I did not divide it, draw my red line into two equal parts. I have a big part and a small part. And how about this last circle? Is that divided equally? No, it looks like I might have taken a bite out of a cookie. Let's look at my two rectangles. I did not divide those rectangles equally. There's a big part and a little part. Remember, equal means the same, so the shapes would be divided equally. This one is unequal, and this one is unequal also. Let me show you one right now that would be divided equally. I'm going to draw a cookie. Well, we'll pretend it's a cookie. And I'm going to divide it equally. Did you imagine that that's what it would look like? Equal parts. Each side is the same size. All right, I'm going to get my next poster out to keep talking about fractions and equal parts. Okay. The title of my poster is Fractions. This time I wrote that in black because I want you to focus on the red words. The red words are how we can describe parts of a shape. And there are also some fraction vocabulary, and we'll read them together, and then we'll look at examples of what they mean. Let's look at the first word, whole. Whole means all. This rectangle is whole. It has not been divided. It's all of it. This circle has not been divided. It's all of it. It's one rectangle. It's one circle. Okay, let's go to the middle column where I wrote the word half. Let's see what half means. Two equal parts. Remember, I said I would use my math symbol there instead of writing the word equal. Two equal parts. If something is divided in half, we can say it has two equal parts. See my rectangle? I divided it in half and it has two equal parts. Look at my circle. I also divided that into half. Now down here at the bottom, I wrote a fraction the way they do it in 2nd and 3rd grade. 1 of 2 parts. If I broke this, let's pretend this is a cookie and I broke it apart, I would give 1 part to you and then there would be another part for me. 1/2. Now we won't be using that in our paperwork today, but you can get used to what a fraction looks like for when you get to 2nd or 3rd grade. And my next word in red is fourth. Now I put a little red dot there because I wanted to tell you another way that we're going to describe things in fourths. We might also use the word quarters. Now I didn't write it on my board because I don't have enough room. But as you work through your lessons, you might hear the word quarter, and that means fourth. So it's another way to say 4 parts of one whole. Now let's look at my example. 4 equal parts. When something is divided into fourths, it means it has 4 equal parts. See my rectangle? One rectangle divided into 4 equal parts. See my circle? One circle divided into 4 equal parts. I call them fourths. Now I put a dot there because I wanted to show you what would happen if I shaded one of the part. And I can't really shade it because I picked a pen that doesn't do that very well. But you see what I mean. This drawing represents one shaded part out of 4. And I could use the math symbol 1/4 to describe that to you. Okay, now let's look at it in a different way. Let's look at it using some Play-Doh. Are you ready? Look at Mrs. Coppola's Play-Doh board. I'm going to put it up here so you can see it for a minute with my other words. I have 4 whole circles, but I'm going to use a plastic knife to divide and show you what it would look like in Play-Doh. Whole. I'm going to leave that one alone because it's whole. It's all. Now I'm going to move this down and I'm going to go to halves. How do you think I'm going to divide the Play-Doh in half for this one right here? Now, instead of saying half, I say halves because there's going to be 2 halves. Can you think about what it's going to look like? If you think it's going to look like this, you're right. Let me do it, and then I'll hold it up and show you again. Okay. Well, look at that. If you have Play-Doh at home, you should try this. I just made one whole into 2 halves. I used my plastic knife to divide it, and I tried to make it equal, right? Sometimes when you do things with your hand, it might not be exactly straight, but it is for the most part. You know what I mean. The next way that I'm going to divide my Play-Doh is in thirds. Now, you probably won't practice thirds in 1st grade fractions, but you can understand it. It might even be in some of the harder enrichment math pages, so I want to show you it. A third simply means something has 3 parts. Well, let's turn this whole circle into 3 parts. I'm going to take it down and I'm going to use a plastic knife to divide it into thirds. And thirds means 3 equal parts. Now remember, since I'm doing it by hand, it might not be exact, but you'll understand what I'm doing when you see it. If you have Play-Doh, you should try this. It's fun. Okay, do you see my thirds? The way that I separated my pieces is I pretty much drew a Y in my Play-Doh. See my 3 parts? And I tried to make them as equal as possible. But remember, I'm using Play-Doh and I'm using a plastic knife. Thirds would mean 3 equal parts. And then here's my last way that I want to show you how to divide things. Can you read that word? It's the same one as down here, fourths. I can divide 1 whole into 4 equal parts. Oops. Hold on, first grade. Oh, look what happened. Let me see if I can do some repair. I think I can. We might be making a blooper reel, Miss Van Gerwen and Miss Curtis and I, and that would be a perfect blooper. But I don't want to start re-record this lesson because it's going so nicely. I'm going to fix it. And look, I did. Okay, now I'm going to divide this last whole into 4 equal parts. This is pretty fun, guys. And here we go. Do you see how I drew a plus sign through my fourths to make 4 equal parts? Let's look at them all together now and read them. Whole, that means all, 1. Halves, that means 2 parts. Thirds, that means 3 parts. And fourth, that means 4 parts. And remember, these were equal parts. There's a difference between equal and unequal. You remember that. Okay, I'm going to put this back up here. Let's see if it'll sit there okay without falling off this time. Let's go back to our pictures of food. Imagine if you were going to share a donut with somebody. Well, you would want it to be equal parts. Let's divide this donut into halves. Part for you and part for me. How about a sandwich? Let's say that there's 4 of us that want to share this sandwich. 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just divided my sandwich into 4 equal parts. Now I didn't have to draw 4 lines. I only had to draw 3. But see the parts? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have a granola bar. Let's say that there's 3 friends to share the granola bar. Okay, I divided my granola bar into 3 parts. What's the matter with that? Well, I didn't divide it equally. This would be the first part, just a little bite. And this is the next bite. But look at the last bite. It's the biggest part. That's not equal. Let's look at a pizza for a minute. Have you ever ordered a pizza with your family and shared it with all the people in your family? And have you ever tried to get the biggest piece? Yeah. Pizzas are often cut into equal parts. They try to be as fair as they can. Remember, when you want to share something, you want to be fair. That's called a fair share. See this pizza? Let's count how many parts there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I took one out, that would be one piece of 6. Now, we won't talk about that many fractions in our lessons. Remember, we'll talk about whole, half, fourths, which can also be called quarters, and you might even see a few thirds when something is divided into 3 parts. All right, guys, get your Play-Doh out and try Mrs. Coppola's math activity. Bye.